second or three.
Yeah.
The conversation killer, isn't it?
I think Dave should actually do a presenter's introduction to YouTube.
Ha! Oh, there's Jack and a Michael G I don't recognise.
Oh, all gone green.
Yeah, it's Dave the Green Man.
Gone green again.
Can't see it, Dave, by the way, on YouTube.
Oops. It says it's live streaming.
Yeah, do you know where it's going to?
WARC. WARC Warrington's YouTube channel.
UARC Warrington.
Yeah, I'm on that at the moment.
Oh, slow.
I can see it now.
Can you?
I'll plonk it in the chat.
It says it's live streaming.
Yeah, I can see.
Where it's going to?
We've got the echoes now. If you're watching the live stream, mute your microphone, your loudspeaker.
Yeah, I'm on that at the moment.
Okay, should we make a start, gentlemen?
Please do.
Welcome to
what about us ladies? Never mind, gentlemen.
Hey,
We've got
good
two
point.
ladies present, at least.
Welcome, ladies. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you.
Any children that are present? Any LGBT plus Q? Anything else?
Yeah.
Dogs, goldfish, cats.
No, I haven't got any of those. So we have a talk this evening by Steve, M0MOI, on the mcHF transceiver. And I suspect, to sort of tease you about what's likely to happen, it may evolve into a discussion about club projects afterwards, but I'll not steal any of Steve's thunder. Before we start, Tristan, did you have any announcements you want to make for Berry?
I'd just like to thank Amy, well, she's not with us, but for publicising this on Facebook. She's our new publicist for social media, so that's brilliant. And thank you, everyone, for joining us from Berry Radio Society and the people that have found this via the various groups IO things that I posted on as well. So welcome, everybody.
Okay. And I'm not sure, Jeff, are you on here yet or not? No, lack of Jeff. Okay, the one thing from Facebook world is that doing the rounds at the moment around this area, and it's hit various members of the club, is one of the old favourites of Facebook malware. If you get something that looks like a video from a colleague and are not expecting it, and it says, "Is this you?" in it, don't open it. It does two things. One, it tries to download malware from the website that you hit. And two, it is a phishing attack, and it will ask for your login details, at which point it will copy it to everyone in your friends list. So if you've got one of those, don't follow the link. Peter, what's coming up in the next few weeks?
Hey Dave, I'll do a very quick rapid run through, if that's all right, because there's quite a few things on here, and so we can get on to the main event of the evening. I think it'll be useful for everyone. This next week, where we've got the Cherokee Flight Challenge from Andy G1 AJH. Week after that, Jeff is going to do his first impressions on the IC705 and various accessories. The market obviously being flooded with those at the moment. 9th of March, we've got Steve Hartley from the QRP Club, which is going to be very good, giving us an intro to QRP. The week after that, moving to the middle of March, 16th of March, Old Ham Gear. This is by Steve Shoredge, G3ZPS, who did a very good talk for us, if you remember, just after Christmas. He's the radio communications guy from the Met Police. So that's the 16th. 23rd of March, Building a Simple Receiver by Nick, M0NTV. End of March, the 30th, a radio power supply from PSU Power Supply by Alan G4FZP, conversion of a computer PSU for use in amateur radio. 6th of April is free. So we're still looking to fill that one. 13th of April is Bob Heil, Evening with Bob Heil, a name we all know, of course, so looking forward to that. 20th of April, we've got a gap again to be filled. And last but not least, Tristan, thanks for this one. You reminded me this morning, 27th of April, we've got Frank Howell, K4FMH, talking about price versus performance of fancy new rigs, etc., etc. So pretty full calendar, one or two gaps there. So that's the state of play, Dave.
Okie doke. Many thanks. At which point, without further ado, I'll turn the floor over to you, Steve. If I can ask people to mute themselves, or alternatively, if people don't, I'll mute everyone. And we'll take questions at the end, if that's okay, Steve.
Yeah, okay. Well, take questions now if you like. No, okay then. Let me get this thing started. Right. Hopefully you can see that first slide. Yeah. Right. The mcHF. It was designed by Chris M0MOI several years ago, and he issued the first version in 2013. So it's a fairly mature design now, with only small changes from model to model. I have to say version 8 has been coming for several years now, but there's little circuit difference between versions 4 to 7. And his intention was to see what was possible using a fairly powerful ARM processor and minimal hardware. Technically, this is a quadrature sampling detector type of software-defined radio with a 0 IF, but that's all been amended. That's just how it started. And just out of interest, Chris's real name was Krasy Atanasov, but you'll only ever see him described as Chris. This slide shows some of the menus and the control of the item. So you can see there's multiple modes for each button, I'm afraid, and there's a touch screen in the middle there, but it doesn't provide you with any details. Oh. How can I move on to the next slide? I don't know. Right, finally. Hope you see this one. This is a block diagram, and so it's not so different from an awful lot of receivers or transceivers. You've got a whole load of low pass filters, and which you use both ways, transmit and receive. You've got a monitor for the what the standing wave ratio might be, bandpass filters, and both gain and attenuation built into the receiver. Yeah, I don't know what else to tell you there. That's fairly straightforward. It's just that apart from the audio codec, a whole load of the other stuff is indeed controlled by the ARM processor. Oh, not again. Right. Oh, that's missed one, I'm sure. Oh, well, it won't matter. It's only it was only an image of the device, but we'll come to that in the end. Right. So, what's the advantages of software defined? Well, you can decode things easily because you've got a nice little processor set there. And disadvantage, well, because you digitize stuff, you're naturally introducing some noise, unless you go for a very high number of bits. Then you get big problems with processing. So anyway, it's just an alternative way of doing things. Let's leave it at that. I don't believe this. I don't understand why I'm having problems here. Sorry, Dave. I might have to drop out of this, and you may have to take over. I don't know what's going on.
Do you want me to present the slides for you?
Well, you could. I can't. Yeah, it depends. All right, then. If you know where we're up to, for some reason, it just won't let me change slide.
Okay, give me a second to open it up.
You can be like Chris Whitty and say next slide, can't you?
That's right. That's exactly what it's. Well, we were worried that I wasn't going to have sufficient bandwidth, but it's not that that's causing me problems. It's something to do with the, I don't know, software. I give up. It's an Apple. I don't normally have problems, but there you go.
You never live it down, you realise, Steve.
I know that. Yes. Thank you.
Go and find it.
So get to the software-defined radio, if you can. Where we are, but
Got to find it first. Take me a while to find the presentation. I'd forgotten you sent it to me.
Oh, right. I just don't know why this thing's locked up. I can't get out of anything.
Okay, found it.
Yeah. Right. Have you got?
Just opening it.
Okay. I'm going to have to reboot the thing. So let me know when we get to the. When we get to the end, I'll turn off and rejoin. I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Okay, I've got your slides open.
Go down to the software-defined part 1, about slide 4 or something.
Yeah, just realised it's going to display on screen 2, so I'll need to do that. Okay, so there's your first screen.
Yeah, keep going. And the next. Right, that's what it looks like. Sorry, for some reason mine wouldn't show it. So it's quite a small, I don't know what it is, about 8 or 9 inches long and about 3 inches sideways on, 3 inch by 3 inch or so. Anyway, can you go to the next one, please? Right, yeah, I was going to carry on about software-defined radio. I mean, it has the advantages, as I've said, that you can decode stuff, but also you can it is easier to generate sideband because you can use different methods, mathematical methods, Weaver and so on. It's not the only one. I can't remember the others, but if you want to do that, it's easy, relatively easy to do. And what else? There's amendments, of course, and improvements to software are easily done because you just plug in a USB stick and there's your next version. If you want, of course, nobody's stopping you from developing the software because this is all open source. And cat control is also built in. So if you could step on now, please, Dave. So I think it's a reasonable QRP transceiver for the amateur bands. And you can just about get to 50 megahertz. Unfortunately, there's no proper filters in, certainly not in the output side, which are at all suitable. And you're probably not going to get an awful lot of signal on the receive side. So, you know, it's just possible if you want. The sensitivity, now, Vincent, although he's not on tonight, I don't think so anyway, we found, when I first built it, we checked it out and found the sensitivity to be, this is what we measured it as. And we thought it wasn't bad for a very simple front end, which is, it's really just a single transistor, bipolar. And that provides all the gain and so on. And we thought that was not bad. And the 5 watts, it does provide 5 watts over most of the, well, all of the bands, I think, and 10 watts over the lower bands. There's all sorts of mods out there, but I won't go into them just yet. But it can also handle, what this rig can also do, which is particularly special as far as I'm concerned, is it can decode FreeDV 1600 mode. can't do any others, but 1600 mode is indeed available, and it's already there. So it's, you know, you don't have to mess around with an extra box or using a laptop or something plugged into your rig. And of course, and it'll also do PSK 31 and 63. Morse is problematic, but it's fine with RTTY. Next slide, please. Right, now it's possible to now you can get it in 3 ways, as it says, you know, ready built, partially built, bare board. There is a problem that Chris does go to work. I'm not sure what he does, and so it's between him and his wife to do the kitting, and they obviously, they're not geared up for it really. So you may not get it at the moment. You may have to wait a month or 2 to order the kit. There is a copy, but well, I'll come to that later. But if you're not reasonably proficient at soldering small components, and I wouldn't really advise it for a novice, then there is a Chinese clone. It's based on an early version, and it's said to be difficult to upgrade its software. I don't know if that's true anymore. I think the German group were not happy in supporting it, but it is pretty much identical to the early version. So Vince and I opted for the part-built boards, where you have to put on things like rotary controls, surface mount relays, and of course the power transistors and voltage regulators. But that's relatively easy, and there's no real tiny stuff to look at. But we opted for those, and they were about £300. There was also some filing and cutting of the case required, not so much the outer case, because that's quite nicely powder coated, but internally there's a metal screen between the 2 boards, and that needs cutting out for some components. I've no idea if he's corrected it yet, but that was the case when I bought this, I think three years ago or so. Anyway, now what I was going to say was, yeah, output transistor biasing is set within the software, so you don't have to fiddle with any fine screwdrivers and so on. It's all DAC stuff. There are problems there, but anyway, you can do it. And frequency calibration as well is all done under software. So it's relatively easy. And indeed, the power levels, you can set them accurately to 5 watts. And then you know you're not going to exceed your QRP power. If that's, you know, I don't know, up to you, depends what, but you can anyway. So next slide then, please. Yeah, it does connect very easily. It emulates, as I said, FT817, and there's any amount of software out which will respond to that, and indeed control it properly. And for some reason I've repeated something here, which just says about the USB, the same USB can be used to upgrade any firmware, but very simply by plugging it in and holding a button down when powering it up. And the next slide, please, Dave. Yeah, so as I already said, actually, it's not really for a novice, and because it's not just the, it's fiddly. For instance, yes, as I've said there, for the display, you either solder it directly to the motherboard, which I wasn't too happy about, or you can obtain low-profile connectors, or the choice I took, which was to use the standard connectors and carefully file them down. Power transistors weren't supplied, so you have to be careful where you get them from, because you can get all sorts of rubbish from China without any effort at all. You shouldn't really use it with a power amplifier. So I'm told anyway by the German group. That's because there's too much phase noise on the thing. Not so much that it puts out nasties in the second harmonic, but it wouldn't spread, and plus it may spread a bit. Plus you shouldn't therefore use it with an up converter, because phase noise will not do you any good further up. So the thing is, it is fairly fairly high current on receive. I'm not entirely sure why, but it's not particularly good on that. But there are all sorts of modifications you can do to reduce that, which again, they're well documented because it's been out there a few years now. So yeah, so that's it, small size. So the next one then, please, Dave. Yeah, there's absolutely I don't know whether you can see that. There is a couple of links. A df8oe.github UHSDR that you can search for, and you can. That's the German group, and they have really taken things on a pace. They tried to put mode 700D, that's FreeDV mode 700D, into it, and it won't quite go because it's a little bit cramped on space. Even on the, you can substitute a different processor. Well, once again, tells you it shouldn't be for the novice because removing these 100-pin devices is not so simple, shall we say. And the other link is for an auto tuner. You can actually fit within the box. A bit extravagant, I think, you know, but I suppose it's handy to have internally. There you go. And then there's some other, I forget what these notes are about now, but these if we can make these available, I don't know, although if it's being recorded, it will be, then people can refer to that should they need to. And of course, you can always contact me if you're having difficulties building it or setting it up in some way, especially when we get back to normal. There are lots of modifications that have been suggested, but they mainly apply to version 4. So if you can get a version 5 or a version 6 or 7, then you're probably not going to bother with any mods. So if you can step on once more, Dave. Yeah, that's a picture of it. And now if I can switch camera, I'll try at this end. You never know. Oh no, you're sharing the screen. I'll do that at the end. Sorry, one more. No, you may not have it. I'll do the last slide, which is basically that in summary, it's cheap, it's lightweight, it's low power, and it can directly encode and decode various modes: CW, RTTY, FreeDV, and it's open source. So it's got quite a few things, I think, going for it. But mainly, I just found it interesting and useful to build. Now, if I switch camera, I'll show you a real one. No. There you go. I don't know why. Oh no, I'm not. No, I'm not going to do that. It's bad news sharing a stream for me. Right, thank you. Yeah, you've got a. This is a touch screen, by the way. I didn't. Perhaps I did mention it. Yeah. So so there's quite a lot of stuff you can do from there. But you've got both a waterfall display and a scope, 32 kilohertz wide, and there's you know. I've put some mods on this. For instance, it's the receive transmit relay, which probably mess it up if you're interested in CW because of the latency in the relay operation. What else? Yeah, I went partly into modifying it for the ATU. This needs to be a push button type, probably here, rotary encoder, but and I also changed this rotary encoder to be a non-indent type. Again, these mods are all out there and specified. Well, that's particularly nice because it feels like a proper transceiver, if you like, tuning knob. Yeah, I can't remember what else I was going to tell you, but not much except that you can't operate it outside the case like this, or only briefly, because I'm afraid the regulators get pretty hot. If you think you're coming down to 3 volts from 12, you're dissipating an awful lot of voltage in a TO package. Oh, these are the power transistors, but at this end of the regulators. so it needs to be heat sinked before you power it up. So I'm afraid I'm not going to show you. There are lots of videos out there with it operating on YouTube, though, if you are interested. As I said, if you decide to buy one and you get into difficulties, by all means, give me a call and we'll sort something out.
Can you
Because
show the bottom of that, the other side of that bottom board, please?
yeah, whichever one you like. There's all the filters. Again, I've modified these. These are elliptical filters now in the bandpass because I wanted a sharper cutoff. I wasn't quite happy with the second harmonic suppression, and that certainly cures it. There's not much to see here, just the, I don't know if you can see those. These are fairly standard for measuring SWR, 10:1 transformers here on input and output to compare the input and the output signals. And down at this end, he no longer fits this. This is the oscillator, main oscillator chip is under here, along with a temperature sensor, and these are coupled by this piece of aluminium. You really should use copper, but nevertheless, that and he no longer bothers with the temperature sensor because the thing is actually quite stable enough without bothering. Apparently, well, I don't know. I don't. You have to be doing CW in earnest for you to notice, I suppose.
Have you got an oversized display on that unit?
No. Again, you're quite right. There are designs out there, modifications where you can put one on. This is just a 2.3, and I think it's adequate. I suppose might be nice to have what is it, 4.3? The next one. I think I have seen it. There's a demo on.
Looks bigger than mine.
No, it's not. Well, if it is, it's standard. I honestly haven't changed that.
I'm impressed you fitted quality control stickers as well.
Me, where's that? Oh, somebody did. Yes. Oh, that's because this board came assembled. I think I said to everyone on Sunday that it was a matter of expediency. These days, with the retired, etc., I couldn't care less about it, and I would build bloody lot. But it's tedious. Having said that, I'd have to. I wouldn't do it again, but I would on a new design. Say, I wouldn't want to redo this. But there you are. So I don't know. Any questions or
Why did you fit the transmit receive relay? I built one of these and I left it as standard, and on CW I find it works well. It works adequately. I'm intrigued by your fitting of a relay.
Right. Well, I don't use it for CW. I'm terrible at Morse, and I didn't like. I thought it was introducing mine anyway. Diode arrangement was introducing some additional artifacts into the output, which is why I changed to the elliptical filters on the bandpass. That's really why I changed it. Since then, I've seen you possibly have a mod. I think it's increasing the voltage supply to the pin diodes, and that apparently works very well. And I am a bit tempted to change it back because then you've got no latency, no messing about. Plus, I also had to cut out the metal work for that thing to fit round. But
yeah. Oh, I meant to make a comment. The latest kits, you still have to do the butchery on the metal shield internally.
Well, yeah. The problem is it's like a one-man business, isn't it? So you can't expect any better.
Excellent radios, though. Absolutely superb, aren't they?
Well, I think it's pretty sensitive.
I love mine.
Compared to, I have a 991 Yaesu thing, and I hate it because it doesn't auto scan the band scope. You've got to keep pushing, or if it does, then it interrupts the audio. So it's like 991A cured that. But I just think that's such a poor piece of design, but that's just me.
Is the tuning knob, is it a standard mechanical encoder?
It is indeed, yeah.
I hate those things because they give up after a while. Not too long either, and give erroneous tuning?
You can. There's nothing stopping you fitting an optical, and I'd be very surprised if that failed.
Yeah, I've found, you know, using those on lots of projects that 6 months a year they start jumping, and you have to change. I mean, they're cheap and cheerful. It doesn't cost a lot to change them. They're only a couple of pounds to change.
Yeah, the optical one's quite a bit more money, but yeah.
It's just the hassle with it.
So, Andy, I think you posted on the chat to say that you built a partial kit.
Yes, I did. It's by my shoulder here as we speak. So I passed my foundation this summer and built that from the partial kit as my first rig, really.
Good.
And I'm quite happy with it. I'm a novice to radio. I've been a shortwave listener for quite a while. But I've been knocking up bits of electronics for quite a while. I'm into computing, retro computing, and that sort of thing. So that wasn't too daunting. There were 1 or 2 tricks and traps, and think building the second one will be a lot easier than building the first. You do still have to modify the tinware, but I didn't find that too onerous. I found I ended up gluing the nuts that hold the power transistors heat sinks in on the back, because otherwise you've not got long enough fingers or snipey enough nose pliers. So I glued them on with super glue.
You're quite right. I soldered them. I cheated, you know.
Yeah.
That's just see that.
I can't really comment on the design of it because I'm not at that level of electronics. But from a production engineering point of view, it needs another few revisions. But ICOM and Yaesu have more people delivering mail than these people have making the kits.
Yeah.
So you've got to cut them a lot of slack. It gave me a really general coverage transceiver for 300 quid.
That's right.
I could buy a speaker and a microphone for an ICOM for that.
I'll leave it till later.
So, you know, I got me on the air, and I'm delighted with it.
Yeah.
Oh, well done building one. If you've only just taken up the hobby, that's
thank you. Yeah. One thing that sort of set me up for it really was I discovered the web SDRs around the place, like Hack Green and 160m.net. So I was used to seeing a waterfall, and the thought of going to a rig without that, didn't like that idea at all.
No,
I want to be able to see where the gaps are in the band and where people are.
Yep.
So I just got spoilt by that. So I had to have something that had it, and I couldn't afford anything else.
I noticed, I think on the circuit on the web uses the 16-watt FETs. I'm just wondering why the power output was so low on the rig.
Well, I don't know. The problem is that
there was RD16HH something or other.
Those are the ones, yeah.
Yeah.
You can get a bit more out of them.
Maybe it's just the drive level's not there.
Yeah, that's right. You can change the drive transistors. I've seen a mod for that, but you know, I don't think it does badly. And yelling, obviously, you
10 watts is plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you're not going to notice any difference between 10 or 15 watts.
Keep it clean as well.
Yeah.
Well, I've got you know, there are some complaints I've got in terms of the design, in that the output transistors are set by a single DAC, and that's not very clever unless they are fairly well matched devices.
Yeah.
Because the bias level sets really the amount of distortion you get out of the thing. You should really be monitoring the output with something like a spectrum analyzer to see how clean it is and set the bias level at that. Instead, the instructions are just to set it to 500 milliamps, I think, and let it go. And that may or may not be good. But it isn't bad, to be fair. But
So the $1 million question. Would you do one as a club project?
He's gone.
Me?
Yeah.
Not in our club.
I thought it was a general question. If it's to me, then if people want to, yeah, it honestly wouldn't stop me. I think it's not so bad. It's especially at the club, if it were open, or you'd need a club open, because setting it up is so much better with the right equipment. so you can know what the frequency that you're on, and it really is that frequency, and so on. We'd have frequency standards, we'd have good gear, whereas working from home, you may or may not be in that position.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing, well, as you know, I've been looking at another kit for a club project. It's leading me in gently.
There's an app you can get.
Leading me in gently anyway to, I've been looking at the, there's a modification to the MuBit or the BitX transceiver. And this one does it really did CW only at about 5 watts. And the modifications are to use Class E on the output, which is a single transistor over the full HF band. There's, I think there's an 8-way filter on the output. And that only does 5 watts, but it's only a single SOT223 or so, tiny little transistor, which doesn't get hot because it's very, very efficient. That part is interesting. The other part is that using a simple ATmega processor, an 8-bit processor, he's managed to put some sideband on and limitations on it, but nevertheless he's done it, and he's also managed to get the sampling of the input signal from using a single oscillator with 3 outputs. I think it's SI something like 3551 or something like that anyway. It has 3 outputs, but you use 2 of them in quadrature, and you've then got your sampling signals for the incoming RF. So it's got a few, 2 or 3 interesting design features, and did think it was maybe worth us. Well, I might do it anyway.
How much does it cost?
Well, I haven't priced it. The problem is you've got to buy everything yourself. It isn't a kit like M0MOI's, so it would be a fair bit more work. And there is no box, although you could probably 3D print one. The whole it's not for the faint of heart. if you wanted a club project that was easier but more expensive, then this mcHF is the answer. But plus, it's always going to be more capable. You've got a 32-bit ARM processor in there compared to an ATmega running at 20 meg. An 8-bit.
Okay. Is it worth putting details of both of them on the club website?
Yeah, of course we can. That shouldn't be a problem. I say I don't think the kit is available at the moment for the mcHF. And as far as the club's concerned, we could do. We'd have to make it easy, do a group order for the circuit boards. And I gather there is one version which isn't a lot of surface mount, or if it is, it's on pre-mounted on modules you get from Adafruit or somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's treat it as a sort of, well, we can either ask people here and now, but if people were interested in either of these as a club project and a group buy, then sort of shout, make yourself known or otherwise. And if there's enough interest, then we can have a go at it and do one between us. There's a comment again from Andy. He says, I'd like to point out that I went into this build knowing that I have a friend who is a full license holder and also an electronic engineer with years of RF experience, which gave him lots of confidence. Yeah, well done, Andy. It's one of the advantages of radio clubs and sort of the sort of self-help that they give, really.
No, he's too late. We've already dubbed him in.
Needs a magic eye on it, doesn't it, Alan?
Any other questions?
Terrific, wouldn't it? Putting more power into the magic eye than we're putting into the aerial.
Can I ask Andy a question? Since you a novice or foundation license, what made you decide to buy this particular kit?
It was the combination of things, really. I've been spoilt by listening to the various SDRs, so I was used to waterfalls and didn't want to go back to just something with a simple display. I didn't really want to focus on any particular band. I hadn't decided where I was going to play. And a lot of the low-end kits tend to be more limited in the band coverage, whereas this would drop me anywhere I wanted to be, or anywhere that my license will permit. I thought that was quite useful and important. I figured I was saving some money by building a kit. I was aware of the copies that you can buy from China, but as far as I'm aware, the open source license only refers to software, and Chris technically isn't open sourcing the hardware, so that makes them rip-offs, and I didn't really want to support them on that. I'd rather support him, so I bought it from him, and his wife packed it up and sent it in the post to me. A fair few reasons, really, but I'm glad that I did. I've been enjoying it. I've still got some issues with my antenna, so I've not been out quite as much as I'd like to have been with it. But it's great. I'm very happy. I think bang for buck, I think it's right up there, because when you're looking at even at secondhand at some of the big names, they seem terribly expensive.
Yeah, brilliant. And did you consider some other similar devices at the time and narrow it down to this particular one?
I looked at one or two others. I can't remember, to be honest, quite which ones I was looking at. I did look at various kits. I discounted quite a few because they were CW, and I'm not yet. But, it's only Tuesday. Give me a chance. That was one thing. And say the general coverage stuff. So this is an SDR. I figured that with software it could go anywhere. Partly not wanting to commit, I suppose.
Yeah, and has anyone had any experience of the U-bit-X at all?
Steve, was it the U-bit-X or was it the QCX?
No, you're asking. I thought it was the U one.
Not that one.
No, it's not.
Right. Okay. Because I've been having a look at the QCX one with the change of software and ripping out more than half of the components on that to make it do sideband and FT8 and such like.
Dynamic range is low though.
Sorry?
Dynamic range of it is low.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
Depends what you're using it for, really, doesn't it? Any other questions for Steve?
Yes, what's the current drain, transmit and receive?
Well, I think it sits there about 450 milliamps when it's idling. So that's a bit high. I've no idea why. I haven't really looked into it because I never intended to use it portable. Yeah, there are mods out there. There's dozens of them, especially on the German side. Possibly worth doing. Possibly not. I don't know. But that's partly what attracted me to that other one. The faster the output.
Steve, your audio has just taken a nosedive. It sounds like you may have knocked the microphone.
No, well, shouldn't be. Let's try. Any better? No, I don't know.
Yeah, that's better.
All right. Well, I've just unplugged it. I don't know what's happening to this laptop. It's going to have to go. Right. Yeah. I thought it. In other words, I said it takes. I think it's taking far too much current to just sit there and receive. I seem to remember it being about pushing half an amp anyway, 400 milliamps. So, and I didn't like that because for a receiver, I don't think it should be anywhere near that. Well, unless you're really bellowing it out of the loudspeaker. But,
is that at 12 volts?
Yes. Yeah.
It is a fair amount. Any other questions? Well, we'll carry on chatting anyway, but what I'll do is I'll close down the YouTube live stream. And I'd just like to say thank you, Steve, from everyone on the talk. But